So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. The idea is very simple. Current affairs coverage on a daily basis is extremely important for you. But we know that you can't spend your entire day just reading the newspaper. Therefore, for your facility, we will cover the entire day's current affairs within 30 minutes. Now, the thing is that just watching this lecture would be job half done because just after watching it, you need to revise it as well. Why, you ask? Well, revision helps in consolidating these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us, and these notes shall be shared on our Telegram platform. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below this video. You just have to click on that link, and from there, you can download the notes and do the necessary revision. Okay, so enough of the introduction. Let's straight away jump into the lecture, starting with topic number 1. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we'll cover. Okay, so topic number 1 is India's infodemic problem. WHO has recently coined a term from epidemic. It's called infodemic. When there is too much false information and it is really taking a toll on the mental health of people. So, what is India's infodemic problem? We'll talk about this. Then, recently, Mudumal megalithic menhirs found in Telangana have been included in the tentative list of UNESCO to be declared as World Heritage Sites. So, what are these Mudumal megalithic menhirs in Telangana which can be declared World Heritage Sites? We'll talk about this. Then recently, Railway Minister has announced that India is all set for implementing Hyperloop technology. Now, this technology was made famous by Elon Musk. Now, what is Hyperloop technology and which institutions are taking care of this project in India? We'll talk about this. Then, recently, RBI received International Digital Transformation Award for the various digital initiatives it took. So, we'll talk about those digital initiatives and this award. And in the end, we'll talk about the 10th edition of Raisina Dialogue, the security dialogue that is held by India. Okay, so these are the 5 topics that we'll focus our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number 1. India's infodemic problem. Now, whenever a disease is widespread, whenever a disease spreads around, it is known as epidemic. And when that disease spreads around to the entire world, it is known as pandemic. And we are familiar with this term pandemic, right? But recently, WHO has coined a term called infodemic. When there is availability of too much information, and that too much information, most of it is false information. This false misinformation, disinformation is really spreading like a pandemic, really spreading like an epidemic. And that is why it is called infodemic. When too much false information is taking a toll on your mental health. Okay. Now, India suffers from this problem. Okay. In this age of information, differentiating truth from lies is becoming harder. India, with over 95 crore internet users, is at the center of a growing problem called fake news. Okay, false information. And this is what we mean by infodemic. Now, there are 2 types of false information, and you need to differentiate between the 2. Okay, don't use them interchangeably. There's a difference between the 2. We hear the term misinformation, we hear the term disinformation, right? And mostly we use them interchangeably, but there is a difference between the 2. Okay, both of them are called false information. But misinformation is that false information which is spread around by mistake. The people who are spreading around this information don't know that this is misinformation. Okay, so this is misinformation. But what is disinformation? Disinformation is false information which people who are spreading it know that it's false, and they are spreading it because of sinister designs they have. Okay, they are spreading it to deceive people. So, one is voluntary, the other is by mistake. Okay, remember the difference between the 2. Now, the thing is, India really suffers from this problem. Okay, now there have been a few surveys in India which show that India really suffers from misinformation, disinformation, and India is at the center of this infodemic problem. Okay, so what is the situation in India? First of all, it was found that due to COVID-19 pandemic, or during the time of COVID-19 pandemic, COVID-related misinformation grew by more than 200%. In fact, out of every 6 misinformative pieces of news with respect to COVID, okay, 1 originated in India. So 1 out of 6 misinformation pieces were in India. India was at the center of COVID misinformation. Okay, so this is the situation. Then, hate speech is another problem. more than 80% of the people, urban Indians, have reported that they have seen hate speech on social media platforms. Okay, so hate speech is a big problem. Then fake news is a big problem. It was found recently by a survey that more than 30% of the information, fake news information, is basically released from registered handles on social media. The one you see with blue tick, right? These are registered news handles or registered accounts. 30%, more than 30%, around 38% of fake news was being circulated by these registered handles. Okay, and during the election time, we saw a lot of deep fakes. What are deep fakes? Well, let's suppose someone used Narendra Modi's photo, Prime Minister's photo, and gave a hate speech. Okay, using AI. So, using AI, people are basically using public personalities or their AI avatars and delivering hate speeches or false information so that people think that it's authentic, right? So, during election of 2024, okay, hate speech was on, deep fakes were on the rise. So these are the four things that tell you that infodemic problem in India is really deep. Now, what are the reasons behind this rise of infodemic? Okay, well, first of all, I'm so sorry. Yeah, first of all, rise of AI, because it is due to AI you can form deep fakes, right? You can create all sorts of misinformation campaigns on just a click of a button, okay, on just the pressing of a key on your keyboard. So deep fakes and all that, it is because of rise of AI that misinformation is on the rise. Then social media platforms are designed to keep you in your echo chambers, and that's because of confirmation bias. You know what confirmation bias is? Confirmation bias is a psychological condition in which your brain tends to believe only that information which it thinks is true, or which basically confirms to something that you already believe is true. So if you are a big believer that India is the biggest superpower, okay, India is the biggest superpower on the planet after United States. So any news that will come which will confirm this bias that you have, okay, will appear true to you. If you have some bias against some particular sections of society, so any news that comes out which confirms that bias that you already have will appear true to you. This is confirmation bias. Okay. So, because of confirmation bias, many misinformation campaigns or disinformation campaigns are believed to be true by masses, and they are trapped in their echo chambers. Now, what are echo chambers? Well, the thing is, if you are continuously searching about Pakistan on your YouTube, YouTube will start to show you only Pakistan related videos. So, you are trapped in this echo chamber, right? It is because of this also that these things are on the rise. Okay. Then social media regulation. There is no social media regulation. Social media platforms are not held accountable for anything that is posted over there. So we need to do something about that. And weak fact checking regime in India. Plus, it was found that during the election cycle that India faced in 2024, many politicians were spreading disinformation. So even political actors were getting involved in disinformation, misinformation campaigns. So it is because of these reasons infodemic is on the rise. Now, what is the way forward? What should we do? Okay. First of all, there should be a digital information law or digital misinformation law, which deals with fake news in India. So we need a fake news law. Then we need to create a law in under which social media platforms are held accountable. And it's not something new. In fact, Germany has already brought in a law which puts these social media platforms accountable for whatever content is posted. Okay, so we need to bring something of that sort. Then nationwide media literacy campaigns should be launched. People should be made aware of how to differentiate between fake news and real news. Finland started that and it has really paid dividends. So this is something. And Election Commission of India should be given more resources so that it can monitor the media landscape during election cycle. Okay, so they can easily monitor who is spreading misinformation, disinformation, and they can correct it. Okay, we also need a stronger fact checking regime as well. So this is the way forward. By the way, from this news item you should take this word infodemic. It's an important keyword, and please remember this keyword. It can be applied in many answers, your mains practice answers. Okay, So remember this term, infodemic. Okay. And now let's move on to topic number 2, which is Mudumal megalithic menhirs. Okay. So Mudumal megalithic menhirs in Telangana's Narayanpet district will soon be second UNESCO World Heritage Site in the state. Okay. So Telangana has one World Heritage Site currently, which is Kakatiya Rudreshwara Temple. Now, after Kakatiya Rudreshwara Temple, soon Mudumal megalithic menhirs are also going to be declared World Heritage Sites. So the state of Telangana is going to host two World Heritage Sites. Okay. The reason for that is that before a site is declared World Heritage Site, it is added to a list maintained by UNESCO called tentative list. Okay. And recently, 6 Indian sites were added in this tentative list. It includes various Ashokan inscriptions, Gupta temples, Chaucer Yogini temples. Okay. Among these 6 sites which have been added to tentative list, Mudumal megalithic menhirs are also one of them. Clear? Now, UNESCO will basically decide which among these sites mentioned in tentative list should be declared in World Heritage Site list. So soon, Mudumal megalithic menhirs can be declared World Heritage Sites. Now, what are menhirs? Okay, menhirs are these tall stones that are erected on the ground. Okay, megalithic means mega means big, lithic means stone. So big stones in vertical form, when they are planted on the ground, well, they are known as megalithic menhirs. Okay, and since these megalithic menhirs are from Mudumal, well, they are called Mudumal megalithic menhirs. Now, megalithic menhirs can be seen all over the world. The thing is that our ancient people, our ancestors, all over the world used to erect these large, big boulders of stones, okay, on their sacred sites, on sites where they did most of their rituals, on sites where they did most of their burials also. Okay, so megalithic menhirs are found all over the world. Okay, now remember this: menhirs are these vertical stones. Megalithic means large stones. Okay, now most of the megalithic menhirs are found in France, Spain, Portugal, and Britain. Okay, so globally they are found in these places. All right, France, Spain, Portugal, and Britain. And the oldest megalithic menhir is found in France. There is a place in France called Brittany. Brittany, France. A megalithic menhir site is found, which is known as Grand Menhir. Okay, so it is found in Brittany, France. So these are the 4 places where most megalithic menhirs are found. In India, megalithic menhirs are found in, well, basically some regions. So Telangana is one of them. Okay, then Karnataka is one of them. Then Northeast India is one of them. Okay, you find megalithic menhirs in Northeast India also. And then there is Chhattisgarh. Okay, now these megalithic menhirs, many historians have basically inquired into their purpose. Why were these big stones erected? Okay, now there are various reasons. Most of these stones or these sites were burial sites. Okay, some sites were sacred sites. Some stones were worshipped. Okay, ritual purposes also. Many rituals were performed by ancient people on these sites. So you will find all these purposes in all these megalithic menhirs, including Mudumal. There are some stones which are regarded as sacred by the local people. Then there, archaeologists have found that ancients have also buried some people around these stones. So all 3 purposes meet. Clear? So this is Mudumal megalithic menhirs. Okay. This is actually Grand Menhir of Brittany, France, as you can see in this picture. Quite iconic. All right. Now let's talk about Hyperloop technology in India. So Union Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav announced that the electronics component technology for Hyperloop project would be developed at Integral Coach Factory in Chennai. Okay. Now India is trying to develop Hyperloop technology. We'll talk about this, what is Hyperloop technology. But first let's talk about India's project. Okay. Now India's Hyperloop project is being conducted or is being implemented by IIT Madras and Integral Coach Factory, Chennai. Okay, both these institutes are in Chennai. In fact, IIT Madras has created a 400-meter long test tube for running experiments for this Hyperloop technology. Now, to understand what India is trying to do, you need to know basically what is Hyperloop technology. Okay, so Hyperloop technology basically runs on this technology called maglev, or we call it magnetic levitation. Now, this maglev technology was initially proposed by inventor billionaire Elon Musk in 2012. Okay, and what is this technology? Basically, these are trains, and these trains are basically using magnets to run at very high speeds. So, this technology has two components. First, you will create a tube. Okay, this tube. There will be a tube where very like low pressure tubes. Okay, very little air would be there in these tubes, and then you will have pods, or we will call them trains. So these trains in which you see people sitting, these trains would run in these hollow tubes. Now these hollow tubes have very little air, extremely low pressure tubes. The reason for that is that when you run fast, you face air resistance, which is known as air drag. So to minimize air drag on these trains, well, you have kept very low air pressure in these tubes. All right. Now below these pods and on these tubes, you'll have very powerful magnets. Now these powerful magnets would repel each other, so this train would levitate in the air, would float in the air. And these magnets would be used to push these trains forward. Okay, so this entire tube and these pods are fitted with powerful magnets which will be used to levitate, float this train, okay, in the air, and then push it forward, propel it forward. This technology was first conceived by Elon Musk. Okay, I mean, he popularized it. And this technology is known as maglev. Now, the biggest advantage of maglev technology is that you're not using any fuel. You're not burning any fuel to run these trains. Okay, so it is a mode of transportation which, well, very simply put, would reduce greenhouse gas emissions because you're burning no fuel. There would be very less noise pollution. Okay, plus if more and more people travel through this, then it would also reduce congestion on trains, normal trains, roads. Clear? And it is really fast, very fast mode of transportation. In fact, if everything goes right, then these trains can travel up to the speeds of 1100 kilometers per hour. Okay, again, no fuel is burned. You're just using magnets, very powerful magnets, to run these trains in these tubes. Okay, and as you can see solar panels also. So these solar panels would produce electricity to power these magnets also, because most of the times you're using electromagnets, right? This is magnetic levitation technology. Now it is still in experimental stage. Okay, it is still under development, but few countries have developed some tracks which use this technology. Okay, there is this train in Shanghai called Shanghai maglev. So in Shanghai, you have these trains. Okay, you have these trains in Tokyo. You have these trains in South Korea also. But they are still at experimental stage. They are not fully developed. This technology is not fully developed. Now, India caught this trend very early, and India started working on this project very early. And India launched Hyperloop project. Now, this project is implemented by IIT Madras and Integral Coach Factory, Chennai. Okay, IIT Madras and Integral Coach Factory, Chennai. IIT Madras has developed an experimental tube which is 400-meter long. It is the largest experimental tube in Asia, and all the electronics components are being developed by ICF. This is our Hyperloop project. All right, that's all you need to know. More information would be in your notes. Okay, now let's move on to our next news item, which is Digital Transformation Award for RBI. So RBI has received an international award. RBI has won the Digital Transformation Award 2025 presented by Central Banking London. So central banking is an institution in London which basically discusses issues related to central banks, financial institutions, monetary authorities, and it releases these awards every year called Digital Transformation Awards. Now, for 2025, RBI received this award. This award recognizes excellence in digital innovation and technology-driven governance. Now, which types of institutions are eligible for this award? Well, it can be given to central banks like RBI, financial regulators like SEBI, RBI, IRDA, monetary institutions like RBI again. Okay, only those central banks, financial regulators are eligible for this who have successfully implemented digital reforms. Okay, now, a few years back, RBI basically launched two initiatives, Sarthi initiative, Prabha initiative. Both of them were digital initiatives. And it is because of the implementation of these two initiatives that RBI has received this award in 2025. Okay, so what are these two initiatives? Number one is Sarthi. So basically, all the internal working of RBI, okay, internal documentation, internal workflow, who will receive which file, who will sign which file, all internal workflow has been taken online. This was Sarthi initiative. And Prabha, well, basically, all those external entities like banks and all who are basically filing documents with RBI. There are many departments, many institutions that file documents with RBI, fill forms with RBI. Okay. All this external documentation, which other entities file with RBI. Okay. Well, they are taken online through Pravaha portal. Okay. So, external documentation. So, let's suppose State Bank of India, or let's suppose ICICI Bank wants to renew its banking license. So it has to file a form and fill out a lot of paperwork and formalities. It can do all of that without the need of any paper at Pravaha portal. And this Pravaha portal is linked to Sarthi portal. So as soon as ICICI files this form on Prabha, that form will go to RBI through Sarthi portal, and all the designated people who basically scrutinize these forms, scrutinize these applications, these forms would go to them through Sarthi portal. Okay, so RBI will scrutinize that application and renew the license. For that, internal working of RBI should also be online, right? So all of that enhanced efficiency of RBI, all of that enhanced paperless efficiency, reduced the need for paperwork. All of that happened, right? So Sarthi and Pravaha initiatives. And now let's come to the last topic of the day, which is 10th edition of Raisina Dialogue. Now, the thing is that before Raisina Dialogue, there used to be a security dialogue called Shangri-La Dialogue. Now, what is Shangri-La Dialogue? Basically, Shangri-La is a place in Singapore, a hotel. And this place basically organizes security conference. So all the global leaders of the world gather here and deliberate and discuss important security issues. Okay, important issues like terrorism, cyber security, weapons of mass destruction. All these important geopolitical issues are discussed upon by important world leaders, and they gather at this place called Shangri-La in Singapore. Now, this Shangri-La dialogue became very famous. So India decided that we should have a dialogue of our own. We should also host such conferences. Therefore, Ministry of External Affairs and a think tank in India called Observer Research Foundation, they together started in 2016 a security conference much like Shangri-La Dialogue, and that is called Raisina Dialogue. The reason why it's called Raisina, because it takes place on Raisina Hill in New Delhi. So New Delhi has a place called Raisina Hill. There they organize this conference. ORF and Ministry of External Affairs organize this conference. Okay, and global leaders gather here and discuss issues related to diplomacy, security, geopolitical trends. So much like Shangri-La Dialogue, we have our own Raisina Dialogue. On all of this started in 2016. 2025 marks the 10-year anniversary, or in a sense, the 10th edition of Raisina Dialogue. Okay. Now, this year's Raisina Dialogue has a theme. The name of that theme is Kala Chakra. Kala Chakra means wheel of time. Time moves on. So basically, the theme of this year's Raisina Dialogue is Kala Chakra. What it means is that all these global leaders who would gather here, they would discuss issues related to changing security circumstances. Things are changing, countries are changing, geopolitics is changing. Uh, Alliances between countries are realigning themselves, right? So, in these changing times, changing security times, changing geopolitical times, what should be the way forward? So, countries are gathering here to discuss all of this. Okay. Now, this conference is going to be from March 17 to 19. Okay. Now, what is the advantage to us Indians of this Raisina dialogue? Well, first of all, global cooperation on security related issues. This gets enhanced. Then, because India is hosting such a security dialogue, India's position, global position, also gets enhanced. India increases its soft power through this. So, because of all these benefits, we organize Raisina dialogue on an annual basis. All right. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And please do not forget to revise this lecture, because revision is important if you really want these current affairs to stick in your memory. Okay. So please do not forget to revise. And on that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.